We're now joined by our two head coaches. We'd like to welcome them this morning. Mark Dantonio, we'd like to let you open since you're considered to be the visitors for this event.
Okay. Very excited to be here today. I want to thank the Cotton Bowl again for their hospitality, everything that we've been able to enjoy here as a program right now. Looking forward to the game tomorrow night. And as I've said pretty much all week long, it's been a great opportunity, but a great challenge for us as a program. And we're looking forward to our moment. So with that, I'll turn it over to Coach Saban.
Well, we'd certainly like to thank everyone involved with the Goodyear Cotton Bowl for the first-class hospitality that the city of Dallas and all the folks here have worked hard to accommodate our team and create a lot of real enjoyable hospitality for us. I think everything has been really first class. Obviously, this is a great competitive venue for both teams, but really excited about the opportunity that our team has, what they've been able to accomplish this year to play against a very, very good, challenging Michigan State team who has had an outstanding year as well. So this is what we came here for, and I think this is what the competitors are excited about.
Okay, we'll take questions from the floor. We have two microphone ladies. If you'll put your hand up. We got a question on the front, middle, about halfway back. She's coming. He's coming. And if you would, your name and your affiliation, please.
Lynn Henning, Detroit News. This concept of a playoff seems to have been so needlessly debated for so long. I'm just wondering now that we're 2 years into this, what each of your dispositions would be toward it, and if you are pleased, how much more pleased would you be if it went to 8 games?
My feeling is, I think it's great for college football, the playoff. I think, having been in it now for the first time, 4 games is very difficult as you move through the process. I think when you start to throw 8 teams in there, I think it's going to get a little bit even more muddled as you move forward. We have our championship game within our conference, which sort of served as a way to get into this. And right now we're coming into playing our 14th game, so it's a lot of football games.
I think that one of the concerns that I had going into the whole playoff system, although I think there's some tremendous benefits to it, and I think that 4 teams certainly gives everyone the opportunity to get the best team involved, and you have to play your way through it. But one of the unique things about college football was always that a lot of positive reinforcement was given to a lot of teams who had the opportunity to go to bowl games. And there were some, pretty significant, trips involved for families and fans and teams and players. And my concern was if we had a playoff, all the attention would go to the playoff and we would minimize the importance of those games for all those other players. And I think that's probably happened to some degree, but I think that from a fan's perspective, having a 4-team playoff, making sure that you get the best teams involved, creates a lot of excitement for fans, and I think it's a very fair way to do it. I think if we play as many games as we play now and go to 8 teams, we're going to be playing too many games.
Question on the aisle left.
Jennifer Hammond, Fox 2 Detroit, for both coaches. I'm hoping that you can share a story perhaps about maybe the first time that you two met and just what you felt about each other, and if you see similarities in one another that you think have fortified your relationship and coaching together over the years, as far as how you've maybe gravitated toward each other and learned from each other.
That seems to be the ongoing story these days, huh, Coach? I got to know Nick a little bit prior to coming to Michigan State, and he hired me. He was still with the Browns, as I remember, still with the Browns, and hired me before. Actually, he sort of interviewed me over the phone a number of times, and then I took the job. I went there, and then met him on that first recruiting weekend. As I remember it, pretty non-eventful, and we had recruits in, and we moved from there. So it's been a great experience.
I've told this story before, but I remember when Mark was in high school, I don't forget where I was coaching, probably Kent State or something at the time, Zanesville High School and went to South Carolina, and sort of knew of him because of recruiting as a high school player. And then when he got into coaching and was a GA, kind of watched his progress in his career and met him a few times and was always impressed with him. And we got the opportunity to hire him at Michigan State. I think it was at Kansas. You know, I didn't really know him well enough to say that we were good friends or anything, but certainly respected the job that he did and made a great contribution to us trying to, you know, build the program back up at Michigan State a little bit at that time under the circumstances that we were under then. So, and he's obviously blossomed into a fantastic job in terms of what he's done at Michigan State right now, and I think the world should recognize what a great job he's done.
We have a question on the aisle on the right
Greg,
side.
you in Channel 6 in Lansing. Mark, has Nick ever been angry at you or hollered at you or anything?
Of course. My assistants would say the same. So I think that's part of the job, you know. You're detail-oriented. You want things done the correct way, and there's a process. There's a process to everything, and that's the way of the game. You know, this is a high-pressure, high-stress environment that we're in, and things need to be run correctly, and they need to all go in the same direction.
We're in our 6th day in town now, and a lot of more media are here now, and you're getting asked
Yeah,
a lot
I
of the
see
same questions. Are you getting tired at all of talking nice about each other? The fact is, you're trying to beat each other's brains in tomorrow.
No, I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think, you know, you respect people for what they do, and you respect great competitors, and as a coach, you know what it takes, the hard work that it takes, the togetherness that it takes, the culture that you have to sort of establish to have a winning program. And when you play another winning program, you just have a lot of respect for that. There doesn't have to be any dislike or distrust or hatred or anything else. It's you respect competitors, and I think great competitors go do their best against each other, and you know, and you have the same respect when you come out the other end, regardless of what happens in the game.
You know, I want to add that, you know, a lot of our program is patterned after the people that I've been able to work for, and certainly Coach Saban has had great success, and quite frankly, a lot of the things that we do are patterned after the things that I learned from him, whether it's technique in the secondary, in the back end a little bit, or defensively, or just structure of the entire program, recruiting, a lot of different aspects. As I said before, you know, would not be sitting up here in front of all you answering the same question over and over if I had not been afforded that opportunity.
We had a question on the front right-hand side.
Dan Uthman from USA Today. Question for both coaches over here. How important for you as head coaches is it to find innovations or introduce innovations in the off season, and how much time and effort do you individually put into that?
He's letting me answer all the questions, I guess. First, anyway. We'll probably get to kick off. But I would say that's part of coaching. You know, coaches are always trying to find something new. They're trying to be innovative, trying to use something they've seen maybe that they can adapt and use within their own program, and I think that's part of the process. Had that not been the case, we would be stuck in neutral someplace, and I think players, programs are always evolving, always, constantly, and I think that's one of the best things that you do as a coaching staff is try and get better every year, and so you have to critique yourself and have to reinvent yourself at times as well.
I think that any business, I think they call it quality control, you sort of assess the things that you did well, the things that you need to improve, some area that may give you difficulty, and then you go into research mode to try to figure out, you know, how can we innovate, to use your term, something that will help us do these things better. So it's sort of all part of the process of what I think any successful organization tries to do in terms of evaluating where they are, what they need to do to improve. You also look at the landscape of, you know, the business world around you. You know, in college football, it's what other teams are doing. And there's something that they're doing that would be beneficial to what we do, and how would it complement us? So I think we're always trying to improve and get better.
Another question on the front right-hand side.
Hondo Carpenter from Spartan Nation. Mark, for you specifically, you talk about how things change and how you change. This is your first bowl game where there's a potential, obviously, of another game after. Has that affected this game, either mentally for your guys, how you approach it, anything different, knowing there's the possibility of another?
Well, we've not tried to let that affect us. We've tried to deal with the present, and I think that's the best thing that we can do right now, and, you know, understand what we know, build on what we know, and go from there with it, you know. So we've been successful in the last 4 bowl games, so we've tried to take that mindset as we've come into this. Obviously, this is a little bit bigger, and it's a little bit busier, I would say, as well. So we've got to take that into context and critique that as well. This whole thing will be critiqued, just as we've both talked about up here. So our goal is to always get better, and keep moving forward.
We got a question on the platform all the way in the rear on the right-hand side.
Right back here, guys. Tom Menino, WVTM TV. Mark, Jay Coker, Alabama's quarterback, said earlier this week Nick Saban is pretty hilarious. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I would.
Well, any moments at all you can think of?
My players say the same thing about me.
I mean, any stories you can recall at all about times you've had?
No, you know, we're talking about 15 years in the past. We'd have to sit down and talk for a while. But you're talking about 1995 when I was hired and worked for Coach, for Nick, until through the '99 season. So 5 years and 5 good years. 5 good years, 5 years with a lot of learning, a lot of different things. But you know, I can't really come off with a hilarious story right now.
and Nick,
a little tense time up here in front of all you.
And Nick, how important is it to keep it loose with your players, especially during weeks like this where so much is on the line?
For myself,
Well, I think that the players basically need to stay focused on the things that have helped them be successful in the past. It doesn't start now. It started with the preparation for the game and how they invested their time in practice and what they needed to learn about the other team so that they have a chance to go out and execute and be successful. But I don't know that you try to keep players loose. I think there's an edge that you'd like for them to have that is going to give them the best opportunity to go out there and play for 60 minutes in the game the way that I'm sure they'd like to play and we'd like for them to play.
We got a question on the second row on the left-hand side.
Jack Ebling, the Team 92.1 FM. Nick, Mark's talked a lot about things he learned from you. Have you learned anything from him except maybe how to block a punt in the last 10 seconds?
Well, you know, I think that since we have not worked together for, I think he said 15 years, which I hadn't figured that out, but I think you learn a lot from anyone that you work with, especially when they're quality and do a good job. I think relationships are really important in any organization. I've always tried to have really good relationships with the people on our staff and the players in our organization and the people in our organization, and I always felt like I had a really good relationship with Mark, and I think that was helpful in, you know, maybe us being able to work well together. So, and I learned things from everyone on our staff, so I think it's a part of how you evolve and improve. You're always looking for input from the people you work with.
Question on the left-hand side, second row.
Ryan Schuling, Team 92.1 in Lansing. For each coach, since your last meeting 5 years ago in a bowl game, how would you say your programs have evolved, changed, maybe are the same in some ways since that last time you met?
well, 2010 is quite a while ago, but that was the first year that we had really, you know, we started really moving in the right direction. And obviously, we had some room to grow after that football game. So, as always, I try and measure our progress by who we play against and how we come out at the end. Try and define our football team at the end of the season, not at the beginning. So we're going to see how far we've grown. But there was no question at that point in time that all of a sudden we got hit with a little bit of an avalanche, and our guys played hard, but we need to be better.
Well, that team that we had that year, I think, was a very difficult team. I think sometimes when you win a national championship, the team that you have the next year sort of sometimes is a struggle to not have complacency. And I think that was probably true of that team. So in some ways, I felt like that team underachieved. But then they seemed to realize that and wanted to prove something, when we played in the bowl game, and probably played more the way they were capable of playing. But from my standpoint, what happened in that game will have nothing to do with this game, because none of the participants are the same, except maybe the coaches. But to me, Michigan State has really, really, grown as a program in a lot of ways. Quality of players, you can see that the system is embedded. The character, the competitive character they play with is something that's very obvious when you watch them play. And I think, those characteristics are, what makes a team really, really a good team and puts you in the position that they're in.
Question on the second row left, and then we'll go to the rear.
Chris Solari, Lansing State Journal. Nick, this is a question for you. Having been in East Lansing and what you've done both at LSU and Alabama, just, I guess from Mark's standpoint, what would a national title mean for him and Michigan State?
Well, first of all, I have great love and sentiment for Michigan State, having spent 10 years of my life there, and I have a lot of great relationships. Michigan State afforded me a great opportunity. George Perlis was the first coach that ever gave me a responsibility of leadership, being a defensive coordinator, and Michigan State gave me an opportunity to be a head coach when I was a defensive coordinator to Cleveland Browns. So but a national championship means a lot to any program. But from my perspective, I think it means the most to the players. And most coaches are really excited for the opportunity that the players have created for themselves by the hard work and commitment that they've made. And I think the fun of it all is to see them sort of reach the fruition of what they've worked for.
We got a question on the aisle all the way back on the right-hand side.
Michael Casagrande, AL.com. Nick, for you, at what point before a game can you tell if a team has the right mental outlook, if they're ready to play? Is it locker room, pregame warm-ups? At what point can you tell, and what are you looking for in that moment?
I don't really think I can't tell. I mean, maybe somebody can tell. I can't even tell that we're going to play for 60 minutes in the game once the game starts. I think you're always trying to focus on playing the next play and making sure your guys are staying focused and doing the best job you can to sort of teach them as the game goes on any adjustments that they need to make and things they need to do better. And so, sometimes I think we have the right mindset, then all of a sudden we have a lapse in a game and the other team goes on a 3-play drive for 81 yards and scores a touchdown and gets right back in the game, and you're sitting there saying, what happened? All right, so I don't think that you ever know for sure. I think you're always trying to work to make sure that you're keeping the right focus and mindset on your team as you play a game.
We have a question on the left side, all the way in the rear. Put your hand up. So there you go.
Back here, Coach. I know I'm short. Jessica Wimsat, Sports Capital Journalism Program, and this is for both coaches. You're constantly in a teaching role with your players, but for both of you, what have you specifically learned from your respective teams this season and in particular this week?
I think from my perspective, I've learned, resilience. how we played through things and played through to the end of the game. And our seniors have had what I think is most important. If your seniors have their best senior year that they've had, great things are possible. We've gotten great senior leadership again this year. Because of that, it's created great chemistry, which creates energy.
I think the thing probably for me is the togetherness that our team has. We've always had good players, and I think this year's team probably has better togetherness. Everybody's sort of committed to the same vision of what they'd like to try to accomplish, and the leadership has certainly reinforced that, and the other players have accepted the leadership and followed suit, and I think that creates great relationships and good team chemistry, and that's probably one of the things that's helped this team sort of grow and develop and create an opportunity for themselves that early in the season I didn't think many people thought was possible.
Question on the second row on the right-hand side.
Nick, when you talked about Michigan State's competitive spirit, when you talk to your team, Ralph Russo with the Associated Press, when you talk to your team about that, do you mention specifically how the Spartans have thrived in these underdog situations, how they seem to embrace being on the other end of teams like Alabama?
Well, I think that more importantly, what we've tried to emphasize is how many games that they've sort of been able to show the resiliency that they have, and whether it's win the game late in the game or win the game in the fourth quarter. I think that kind of competitive grit is something that you have to have a tremendous respect for, and you got to know what you're up against when you play against some people like that.
We have a question on the middle, halfway across.
For Coach Saban, Mark Hollis said that he called you before he hired Mark Dantonio. Could you talk about what that phone call was like, and also if you could maybe share some background on Harlan Barnett? I know he played for you with the Cleveland Browns.
And Michigan State.
And Michigan State, thank you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I thought Mark would be a really good candidate to be a head coach at Michigan State. He had lots of ties there. I'd done a really good job everywhere he'd ever coached. He'd been in a position of responsibility and done an outstanding job in that. He certainly has the right kind of personal character and integrity to have the kind of leadership that I think is necessary to sustain a program with some kind of consistency and success because of the values and culture that you create. So that was my assessment of what I thought a good direction for Michigan State would be, and I would say that sitting across from Mark right now, he sure hadn't disappointed anybody. And Harlan Barnett has always been one of my favorites because he's a great competitor, really good person. And when you have an opportunity to coach a guy as a college player, and then later on he becomes a professional player and he plays for you, it's always a little bit different, the relationship you have with a guy like that. And certainly I have a tremendous amount of respect for Harlan, not just as a player, but now as a coach, and what a great person.
We have a question on the third row on the left-hand side.
Okay. Dwayne Rankin, Montgomery Advertiser. Question is for both coaches. Obviously, you guys have prepared nearly a month for the game. What stands out the most about either team?
Well, when you look at Alabama, first of all, they have very, very good players. Secondly, they're extremely well coached. They play very disciplined. Due to some of the people I've worked for, I understand technique and et cetera. So, I watch their secondary, I watch their linebackers. Linebackers stay clean, downhill players, thumpers, big thumpers, great athletes as well. In the back end, they're very well coached, play on balance, very good tacklers in space, play the ball in the deep part of the field. When you look at them offensively, very cohesive offensive line. And you see structure, you see toughness, you see effort, you see knowledge of what they're supposed to do, which are three things that I've basically learned from a very early time in coaching with Nick that has to happen if you're going to be successful. And you see that, and you see them playing at a very high level. And as I said earlier, my first statement, be a great challenge for us. Great opportunity to be here today, but it'll be a great challenge. We'll need to be at our best, play at our best, because our best is going to be needed here.
Well, I think that Michigan State is a team that obviously is hard to beat. And I think they do the things that you need to do to be hard to beat. They don't turn the ball over. They have great balance on offense. The players do a great job of executing, and they're very well coached. You go to the other side, their system on defense is very sound and solid, and the players have a great understanding of it and do a great job of executing it. And they're well coached in the kicking game. So, you know, some teams are really, really flashy, and, you know, they go no huddle, fast pace, do all these things that create this mirage of, you know, big plays and space plays. And that's not necessarily the kind of team we're playing. They beat you basically on fundamental execution and not making a lot of mistakes. And that always makes the team hard to beat. And then you throw in the kind of competitive resiliency they've shown this year, and that's really helped them to be very, very successful.
We got a question on the left side. If you put your hand up so.
Over here. Nick, Stuart Mandel from Fox Sports. You mentioned earlier that the 2010 team that went to the Capital One Bowl was considered to have underachieved. And you also mentioned, you know, the possible, in the playoff system, the possible effect it's going to have on the other bowls. For a program like yours that has been in this position, either BCS title game or playoff, almost every year recently, do you foresee going forward a system much like the NFL where if you don't make the playoff, the program with your expectations, that's considered, you know, to have been an unsuccessful season?
I don't think there's any question about it. I think in some circumstances I saw what happened this year. Coaches who won 9 games and average winning 9.5 games over 15 years lose their job based on what standard. So I think that's probably going to be the standard, and that's the thing that I thought was unique about college football, that there was a lot of positive reinforcement for having a good season, a very good season, and now that standard is going to be measured more as to whether you get in the playoff or not.
Got a question on the right-hand side about halfway back.
Adam Kramer from Bleacher Report. Mark, Connor Cook has talked this week a little bit about his growth from a recruit into the program. When did you know that you would have or potentially could have the quarterback that you have now?
Well, I think when you recruit on, you know, size, you recruit all these different things, you know, what you see on film, you get to know the people involved in it, and then you start to develop people. You know, Brad Salem, our quarterback coach, did an outstanding job with them through the process. He's been in the system for 5 years with the same coaches coaching him, both as a coordinator basically in the same system, so he knows our system inside and out. So when we redefine something or readjust, you know, he's able to adapt very, very quickly. But we thought that in coming to camp and in watching him in person, he had a great deal of upside, tremendous potential. Knew he needed to grow, get a little bit bigger, those type of things. He's filled out, as most young people do. And he's just, you know, we've had great quarterbacks. We had Brian Hoyer, you know, then Kirk Cousins, you know, Nick Foles is in our program. You know, here comes Andrew Maxwell, and then Connor Cook. So that trend hopefully will continue, but you know, I just think that he's done an outstanding job, and he's had his, you know, he's played on a big stage before, and he's been playing since he's a sophomore. And I think he's 34-4. So he can do about anything you want him to do. He can create. He's got a quick release, strong arm. those type of things, and he believes in his receivers. And he throws the ball in very tight windows, and he throws a very, very catchable football. So, those are the things that I know that he does, and, he's been a great performer for us, great leader for us as well.
Three-quarters of the way back on the left side.
Nick, Ivan Mazel with ESPN.com. You've had teams that have played very well in bowls, and you've had teams that haven't. Is there an art to bridging that 3 or 4 week gap, and what have you learned through the years about how to do it?
Well, I think creating the right mindset is probably the most important thing. Teams that have responded to the challenge of what they want to do and what they want to accomplish seem to do a little better in terms of their preparation, their practice. And, some of the other teams you're always a little frustrated with in terms of, how they're going about the preparation and maybe the respecting the moment of the challenge that they have. But, I've been pleased so far with the way this team has sort of gone about it. So, hopefully we're playing against a good team, and as a coach, you always hope that you can get the team to play the best of their capabilities. That doesn't mean you're always going to win, but certainly that's what our goal is with our players.
We got a question on the third row left side.
Alex Binding at Gator Daily. For both coaches, y'all ended the season last year on very different terms. How much do you remind your teams pregame this year about the emotions of last year's finish?
Well, last year we were able to win the Cotton Bowl, so, it was on January 1, so sort of ironic to me that we're playing on December 31st, and we look to go 365. And we left on an upswing, and it was a very positive end of the season for us, and it sort of catapulted us into 2015. But along with that, we didn't reach our goals. So we were an 11-2 football team and ended up number 5 in the nation, but nobody felt like they were satisfied, and I think that's what allowed us to move forward, sort of with a state of mind that understood that we needed to play better. We needed to do better than we did, and we needed to play our best in big games, which I don't think happened last year on a consistent basis.
Well, we were very disappointed in our playoff game a year ago. We played against a really good team who was playing really well at the time, and we don't ever want to take anything away from what they did. I thought they were one of the best teams in the country, which proved out to be the case, and then winning the national championship. And even though it was a very competitive, tough 7-point game, I felt like our team did not play the way you would like for them to play. And I think they felt the same way, very disappointed. And I think that probably was one of the catalysts for this year's teams sort of having something to prove. And so far, they've done the things that they need to do to be able to give themselves another opportunity to see how they could play in a playoff game.
Question on the left, about halfway. There we go.
Gentlemen, how do you feel about the New Year's Eve placement of these games, knowing that the audience is likely to be conflicted? And why shouldn't these games, as important as they are, be played at a time that would be more favorable to an audience nationally?
Some things you can control and some things you can't. It doesn't make any difference when we're playing, as far as I'm concerned. We're playing at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, and that's the focus. So I'm more concerned about the people on the sideline and how they're viewing it.
I don't really have a comment about that. It's not my concern. I don't have any control over it. We have a good opportunity. I never even thought of it that way. So we have a lot of good people in administrative positions that can make those kind of decisions, and when they make them, we're just happy to be involved in them.
To follow up there, Nick, shouldn't games of this consequence and this importance on the national stage be scheduled at a point where the audience could benefit from it most?
Well, I think if they're interested, they'll benefit from it. I mean, they'll have time to do everything they want to do. They can watch the game and then they can go do whatever they want to do. So I don't know why they're conflicted, but that's everybody's choice. I mean, I think that's why we have a great country.
We got one last question. We'll get the microphone to you on the outside left just a moment. This will be the final question for the coaches.
Thanks. Cecil Hurt, Tuscaloosa News. Coach Saban, I think with the Coach Spurrier out of the game, Coach Beamer out of the game, I think suddenly you're the winningest coach in college football. Do you consider yourself an elder statesman? And has your role changed in terms of college football in general and the issues you consider?
No, I didn't realize any of those things until you mentioned it, so that would just show you the level of awareness that I have of these types of things, especially when, you know, you're sort of focused on your team and wanting to do a good job for your team, and I don't see it being any different. We have enough challenges trying to help develop the players that we have, recruit, you know, good players for the future, keep everybody in our organization sort of paying attention to the principles and values that have helped the organization be successful in the past. And, you know, that's challenging enough for me without getting involved in things that I really can't control. I do have an interest in what is best for college football. And I think all of us as coaches probably feel the same way. And if there was something that we could do for the benefit of the game and the player, I think that we would definitely be involved in that to whatever degree we could to help the quality and integrity of our game.
Okay, we're going to get a picture for the coaches with the trophy. So if you gentlemen will stand up, we're going to move some of this stuff out of the way. And you guys that are still photographers, stay down a little bit. Huh? Yeah, we need to move. We want to move the cups out of the way. Yeah, leave their name tag. That's good. Thank you, Coach. Okay, if you guys would kind of move a little bit, yeah, in the center. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, you guys got to be down, please. Thank you. Okay. You guys okay back on the video? Okay. Okay. Would you guys mind shaking hands, pretend like you like each other? Okay. Dan Novikov, the chairman of the Cotton Bowl Athletic Association. Dan, come on up. Yeah. Would you guys pose one more time here for the three of you? Can we do that? Does that work? Can you everybody see everybody's face? All right, go ahead and do it quick, and then we'll let the videos. Okay, video. Everybody okay? Gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon.